You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Welcome to episode 74 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Calendar. I'm a mortgage lender.
I'm Andrew Yagi, and I'm a real estate agent. Happy spring, Kayla.
Happy spring. We're getting there, sort of.
Spring is kind of, the weather was kind of a little shaky yesterday, but April showers bring May flowers, right?
Mm-hmm. And what do May flowers bring, Andy?
May flowers bring real estate sales.
Oh, boom. I was going to say June bugs, but I like that answer better.
Hey, I think we're starting to see things pick up a little bit. It's still, I was telling someone just earlier, almost a little bit feast or famine. But I've been just really surprised. It almost feels like with a couple of recent transactions, like it's like 2021 again. Like I had a buyer the other day. We offered on a home. There were 4 offers and we lost out. I've got a property listed, actually some lakeshore, where we ended up with 4 as and some really, really nice offers and people paying some pretty nice sums as well. So it's kind of interesting, but then some properties kind of sitting as well. So, I guess consumers kind of saying that, hey, if we're ready to go, this really speaks to us, we're going to go and we're going to compete.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's interesting to reflect back. I remember giving FHA pre-approvals to clients, and I knew if they had an FHA pre-approval, there were going to be 10 conventional, and they couldn't compete. And we're seeing a little bit of that now. I have a client that's FHA pre-approved, and it's contingent on the sale of their home, and we are seeing a little bit more competition. And even with rates kind of creeping up and down and being volatile, people are still out there. In the big scheme of things, when it impacts your payment, $30 a month when the rate changes, people know that if they want the home, they're going to go for it.
For sure. Right on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about real estate, Kayla, but before we, jump into a variety of interesting topics, anything fun going on in your life, or Fargo or Galaxy dogs? Give us something.
Not a whole lot. I did go see my mom and my family in Pembina last weekend. So that was fun to just get up there, small town vibes. So helped a client purchase in Pembina, and they happen to know my family. So that was cool. Just going into a really busy, crazy week again. Like you said, it's just picking up. And I always think it's funny this time of year, like you see your neighbors finally. They're walking around with their dogs, they're out and about. So, spring is springing, and it's just nice to see people getting out and having activity. And I always think too, the weekend of Easter, it's usually kind of the weekend that is the step of, okay, warmer weather, you start to feel it. So I'm really excited for that. So that's not a lot of fun stuff to report, but just some Kayla stuff.
Do you and Taryn have any big plans for Easter weekend?
I think we're going to go to the lake. Work on some stuff. Taryn's probably going to put me to work, but rightfully so, get some stuff done, and then maybe hang out with his side of the family. So what about you guys? Because I'm guessing you might have some Easter baskets to prepare.
You mean the Easter Bunny has some Easter baskets?
That's what I said. The Easter Bunny.
Yeah. So we are actually going to head up to see my family up in Thief River Falls. Actually, we were out and about. I got to find this and show it to you. We were out and about last weekend. Had kind of a nice couple of days of downtime, or a day and a half of downtime between the chaos of real estate life. And actually, I've been doing a couple of flying trips as well. Mm-hmm. And so we went out with the girls. Ella, our oldest, she's doing volleyball. So we had some volleyball to go to, and then we went to we've got kind of a really cool Scandinavian restaurant called Toast downtown, which they serve basically everything on toast. Not quite everything, but pretty close. So we went down there and ate, and then the girls, because the weather's been getting nice, we've been spending a little bit more time outside, and Ivy, our youngest, who's 2, has been kind of upset that she doesn't have a bike to ride around on. So we actually ran out to Walmart, and Ella, of course, we put Ivy's little bike in the shopping cart, and Ella, who's the oldest, insisted on sitting on the bike.
Oh, my gosh. Look how excited they all are.
Yeah, so we were running around. We had kind of a good time, but we're going to head up to Thief River Falls to see my family for Easter. We're actually going to drop the girls off a little bit early and head out to a friend's 40th birthday in Vegas for a couple of days.
Oh
So
boy.
that'll be kind of fun to get out and
Yeah.
and do something without kids for once. But
That is a nice break. So 40th birthday in Vegas. That sounds fun. That sounds
doesn't sound like any fun. Ask me on Saturday when we're coming home if it was any fun.
I'll ask you then. It's tough though. Once we get older, it's like it's hard to hang.
Yeah. Well, I just had another friend's 40th birthday party, and someone mentioned the next day, they're like, Jesus, feels like it was a 21st birthday party, not a 40th. But
oh my gosh, I can't imagine. Yeah, it's like when we used to go out at 10 p.m. I'm already in bed by that time. And Vegas time is a whole lot different. So good luck with that.
Right, for sure. Thanks. So thank you for your prayers and thoughts. Hey, I see you're cashing in on one of the recent AI trends online, and if this was a real thing, I'd maybe ask for one of these for my kids' Easter baskets. But I see that Kayla, the mortgage lender, has an action figure.
Yeah, you want to know how many people thought that was real? I was having people that I didn't even know.
Only people from Pembina and Walhalla.
Oh, whatever. No, these are people on like LinkedIn. They were reaching out like, can you tell me where you got that made? And I'm like, Chat GPT. But yeah, it went wild. I posted it and then I had a different one and people were like, where are the dogs? And I'm like, okay, I'll recreate it. So I said, Chat GPT, can you add 4 beautiful baby pit bulls, make one of them gray? And this is what we got. So not real, people. It's not real. It's not something, but it's making me think I should get them made. I mean,
I think you should. What better closing gift to give someone, especially with kids, than a mortgage Kayla?
Yeah. You can be a mortgage lender too one day. You can be anything you want to be, because we all grew up wanting to be mortgage lenders when we were 4.
Right. And I'm sure that, I'm sure you've seen the internet flooded with all of these. I've seen a lot, in many different areas, and everything from aviation related to funeral service, which I used to work in, and it's just been very, very funny seeing some of the the stereotypes come together in a generated action figure.
I saw one person post, they marked themselves safe, like you can do that on Facebook, from the AI blah blah blah. I'm like, because they were over it by that point, but there's been a lot. So
it is kind of cool. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's fun, but it really took off. Where was yours, Andy?
I honestly, I've been all over the place. I haven't had time to sit down and look at it, but it's been fun to just sit on the sidelines and kind of watch.
I'll make you one, Andy, and we'll share it next time.
You do that. I'd be curious to see what you throw in there.
So look out.
Yeah. What else can you share, Kayla? What else is on your mind?
Oh, on my mind, I have felt that, and I'm going to go back to, the market. I'm going to go back to busyness, chaos. Like, really, one of the things I'm really passionate about talking about, and it's probably because I have yet to achieve it, is work-life balance. I think that, you and I both have passions, and we volunteer and we do things, and, you're doing aviation, and you're flying, and you're a dad, and you're crushing it in real estate, and you're, what else are you doing? Are you like singing at church still and playing like piano and all that still?
I feel like I shouldn't even say this on the episode, but so we had a fire at our church in the church office. So our main church proper has not been open, and we've kind of been at a nearby church and the next town over, and then kind of in the gym. But just between activities that have been going on, some of the flying that I've been doing, and everything else, like I feel like a really bad Catholic for saying this, is that I don't think I've even been to church during Lent this year.
Oh God, Andrew.
I know, and Holy Week's not looking very good either with some travel plans. But no, there's so much going on out there, Kayla, and balance. And you hit the nail on the head. I struggle majorly with balance, and I'm trying to find a little bit more of that. My wife and I have been talking kind of about her future a little bit, as far as career and just family, just as our kids continue to get more and more busy, and the time just flies by. It's a struggle, especially as I start piling on, even like we talk some aviation things. I should share with you, Kayla, and share with so I started, doing some contract pilot work, flying some larger aircraft a couple of years ago, and, kind of been climbing the ladder and just do an occasional trip here or there, whenever it works with real estate and family and everything else. But I just had kind of the cool opportunity to go and get what's called a type rating in a jet. So this is the Beach Jet Hawker 400 XP, also known as the Beach Jet. And so just got a type rating, which is basically a special check ride and license that you have to get for this particular aircraft in order to fly it. And it was kind of challenging. They're kind of intense. It's basically what an airline pilot has to do to go and fly, whatever it is that you're hopping on to fly to Mexico or Denver when you go visit your sister. But super, super fun. We just took a group down to Augusta for the Masters and came back and did not take any of that in. It was strictly work, just a day here and a day there. But just really awesome. The people you meet and kind of looking out from 40,000 feet. It's the best view, honestly, Kayla.
That's so cool that you do that, because it's a challenge in itself to, get to the level you are to even fly, let alone to have a little kind of side gig, and you get to meet people, and you're so good at meeting people and talking and socializing. And you get to see the world. So it's really cool. Like when I think about how you do real estate and you combine this all, you never know as well if that next person you're flying is going to be a client. And it's just really cool to see. And I didn't even know that information you shared. I had no idea that that's something you'd have to do. And what's the best part, would you say, of flying? Like, what's your favorite part? I'm curious.
I would say the best part is just, getting up in the air. I mean, it's just exhilarating, as you get up and, you push the power forward and, it's, seconds later that you're in the air. And I mean, just the view and just looking over, just the gorgeous creation that the earth is, and just thinking like, wow, this is so awesome. The ground you cover, the people you meet. And honestly, like I've said before, Kayla, I think it keeps me sharper, because I think that, I've had some people before that say, well, geez, I stopped into your office and you weren't there. And even if I'm around, it's like, hey, it's not my job to sit in the office. It's my job to be out, to be connecting with people, to be doing things in the community, to be sharing my talents and skills and the like. And so honestly, it's one of those things that just, it requires that you are really on top of your game, and this aircraft inside and out. Because again, the people in the back, they rely on you, to get them from A to B very safely. So it keeps me sharp and keeps me actually as a better real estate agent. I think a better dad, a better husband as well.
I love that. Oh, thanks for sharing that. I love hearing about it. Like, jack of all trades, Andy can fly you anywhere. Next time, we really need to consider doing our podcast like from the air. Let's think about it.
One day we'll do it, Kayla.
We will. I love it. Until then.
Anyway, let's talk, Kayla, a little bit about real estate. And hey, I think a little article that you pulled up, maybe you want to share about it, just kind of something maybe a little bit lighthearted. And kind of
how wild, right? Our friend Jeff sells his Seattle mansion for $63 million. Wow. Like, what?
New record for Washington State's priciest residential transaction.
Isn't that wild? And I always forget, he's 61, but estimated to be worth $198 billion. Like, I can't even think about that. So when we think about this $63 million property, it seems like nothing when you think of that. But
look at that. Gorgeous.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? Beautiful. Like, such a cool, I would be hosting so many parties there, and Easter, wow.
Easter, you think I'd come and visit you for Easter, Kayla, if you had that house.
Yeah, I would. I'd let you just camp out for the weekend. I mean, you wouldn't even have to go to Vegas for that 40th. You could just come to my house. Wild.
The size of the house, you wouldn't even have to see me. Probably, it's so small.
Yeah, right. I'll be like, "How was your time at Easter at my house? Sorry, I didn't get to see you." Yeah, it's beautiful, but just a cool, fun story, right? Wow, I wonder if he think he put a mortgage on that?
I don't know. Probably not. It did say that in 2019 he bought it for $37.5 million through a trust. So he's had some nice appreciation. So that kind of ties in to what you always say, Kayla, about how you're missing out if you're waiting to buy, right?
Yeah, I mean,
just ask Jeff.
Yeah, just ask Jeff. I mean, 37 to that's wild. That's amazing. So yeah, I wonder Wonder what he's going to do with all that money. But
Right.
buy more real estate, right?
Probably buy more real estate. And speaking of, Kayla, so I kind of follow someone online called the Financial Samurai, and they talk, kind of about, just financial education and money, and talking about 2025 housing prices. And, chances are we're going to see continued strong gains. Of course, not every analyst can agree on it, but obviously we've seen, a lot of turbulence in the market just due to all of the uncertainty with tariffs and the like. And analysts on housing are generally positive, saying, well, housing prices may decline 0.4%, or they could be up about 11%. In fact, there was a post out there that talked about, from Financial Samurai, that 2025 is shaping up to be real estate's time to shine and potentially outperform stocks by a wide margin. And so again, 2022, which I had forgotten. I mean, obviously we knew there were rate hikes. I had forgotten, Kayla, that there were 11 rate hikes.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
2022. And now, amidst all the uncertainty and chaos, expectations are back for 3 rate cuts in 2025. We'll see if that happens. But just with pent-up demand, declining rates, which again, we're not even going to talk about rates today, Kayla, because they're just all over the board, but basically setting the stage for, for continued growth in housing. So and again, just talking as well about, there's some pretty big players like Rocket Companies, who has Rocket Mortgage, agreed to acquire mortgage servicing giant Mr. Cooper for $9.4 billion, and then they bought Redfin as well, which is kind of an online real estate platform, a brokerage as well. And again, I think he says it well. You don't spend that kind of money unless you're bullish on real estate and mortgage rebound.
Yeah.
What say you, Kayla?
I think that I still, the jury's still out on, the Mr. Cooper, the Redfin. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in terms of the future for mortgage, for real estate. But at the end of the day, even when I've talked to high school kids, when you graduate high school, you need to have a roof over your head, whether you're renting or you're buying, right? People are always going to be buying real estate, whether they want to or not. A lot of times they might not have the choice. If you're moving, if you're, getting a new job, if you're getting divorced, there's always people that are going to be buying. And I think that we've seen rates get hiked 11 times in 2022, like that said. People were still buying, Andy. They were still buying. There's so much opportunity out there. And I think that the consumer is actually getting smarter. When I talk to my clients and we talk about appreciation, when we look at Jeff Bezos selling his house and what he bought it for, I feel like the consumer is getting more intelligent. And I think, this is just me personally, but in every conversation I have with clients, I had 8 new client calls yesterday. In 8 of the calls, 8 of them, all of them, they said, when I asked them, what's your motivation for wanting to buy? What's the reason? It's, I'm sick of renting. I'm tired of paying someone else's mortgage. The consumer is getting smarter and the drive is there. So I feel like you said, interest rates are going to go up and down like we've seen over the years, but the consumer, there's still going to be people wanting to buy. And I think it's going to get busier throughout, especially in 2026. I think 2025 will be similar to 24, but I think it's going to get busy. And when you're seeing those acquisitions, my, oh my, to me, that indicates it's going to get busier.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And, obviously, like this talks about, they're on average, if we average out the home appreciation forecast by entity, kind of guessing 2.8%, which 3% in general, I think, is what we see quite often for home appreciation. So I think that, things are going to go up. And obviously, you and I, Kayla, we talk quite often about real estate buying and selling, for personal individuals. But this article talks even more, and where the Financial Samurai really likes to talk is using real estate as an asset class, something to build wealth. And so talking about this, he feels that again, this is a very strong asset class, especially as we're seeing, issues in the stock market and, maybe people being a little bit frightened by all of the fear in real estate. Of course, as he points out, offers tangible value, provides shelter, and doesn't vanish overnight like stock. Inflation hedge. Real estate values often rise with inflation, which is really awesome. Enjoys favorable tax treatment. Which is great to be able to depreciate your properties, generate income, and provide steady cash flow. And it's understandable. Like people can understand real estate. Like most of us, we own a home. So if we go out and we invest in one and use it as an investment, it's a pretty easy thing for most anybody to understand.
Right. Well, even Taryn and I were talking this week. We get our tax bill, right? Taxes go up, for our lake home and our Fargo home. And then, we want our value to increase, but we don't want to pay the taxes on it, right? But seeing what our lake home has appreciated in Minnesota, my goodness, like the value of lake property, you could probably speak more on this than I can, but what we've seen in just the 3.5 years we've had our lake home, it's wild. And, I've talked to Taryn, I'm like, do we pull the money out? Do we invest it? What do you do? And it's, as we tell our clients, it's kind of invisible. Like you don't really think about that piece, but when you go to sell or you go to take that out and do something with that equity, like you're making hand over fist, especially in lakes area. So depending where you live, depending on the rate of appreciation, yeah, that's how most people are building their wealth.
Right. Without a doubt. So. Yeah, well, stay tuned. I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm having more and more conversations with people who are investors or are looking at getting into some investing, and there are some opportunities, but again, just with as solid as the market's been, it is hard to find decent values. So,
yeah.
Kayla, shifting gears a little bit. So a couple of minutes ago, you had referenced taxes, and obviously we all know we need to pay taxes. In so many different ways, but property taxes are obviously a big one. And hand in hand with those in a lot of markets are special assessments. And there was an article, I think we touched on this, a little bit on a past episode, but we really never, dug into it. But, there have been a lot of rumblings or, maybe not even rumblings maybe isn't loud enough, but just looking at how fast Fargo-Moorhead's been growing, and specifically Horace, and some of the special assessments that go hand in hand. And, Valley News Live, I think it started on KFGO. I think this individual had come on KFGO on News and Views and had talked about their experience, and then Valley News Live ran a segment talking about neighbors pushing back on rising specials. And, they focused in on kind of this single mother with 2 kids who had her mortgage rate unexpectedly increased to $1,400. Now, I don't work in the Fargo market every day. We've got a mutual client who's buying in Horace, so we're very, aware of everything out there. But talk a little bit about this and about what is going on in Horace and what it means.
Yeah, so I think that, this news has created a lot of questions and fear about building or purchasing a home in a newly developed area. And so for those that don't know, special assessments are typically on properties that are newer, because when there's infrastructure that's coming to a neighborhood, there's special assessments that are to pay for that. And that is passed along to the homeowners in that neighborhood. So I always joke with my clients, we live somewhat by Costco, my husband and I, and they put up a light. And I said, I'm paying for that light. So when there's newer developments, those costs are passed on to the buyers in the area or the homeowners in the area. So I just wanted to share that is what a special assessment is. Now, when we see $80,000 in special assessments, it's not a flat payment. It's not a flat rate. It's not a flat term. In fact, that $80,000, a lot of people don't know this, it's comprised of multiple assessments. So there could be a street light, there could be a park, there could be whatever it may be, and they're on certain increments. So you might have 20,000, 5,000, 3,000, 10,000, and all of them are amortized over different years. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different, and at different interest rates. So that 80,000 could be comprised of 5 and 4 and 3 and 2% with different balances. So I share that because it's really hard to tell someone what you're going to pay per year unless we have all of those special assessments and all of that information to then calculate what that equates to your yearly special, which equates to your monthly payment. So it's kind of a lot of information I just shared, but with what's going on in Horace, there's a lot of new development. There's a lot probably growing faster than they anticipated. And with this story, this appears to be that this woman had purchased a new home in an area where it sounds like the specials, correct me if I'm wrong, were at 56,000 estimated. Then they went up to about 80,000. So what that means for this woman is she's having to pay that additional amount in her monthly mortgage. And so the question becomes, why did this happen? That's a pretty significant amount, Andy, to go from 56 to 80 on that size of home in that area. And so this story is talking about how her mortgage payment went up roughly $1,400 per month. And there's a lot of talk about this, a lot of discussion. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if the builder who owned it didn't pass that along. We don't know if it was a surprise assessment, but it sounds like this homeowner didn't have that information when she purchased the home. Now, special assessments can come on at any time. Just like I talked about, my husband and I, we paid off our specials. It was 2021. It was a time where it made sense. So now we have an extra special because of that stoplight. It's about $3,000 in total. But this girl, she got hit with a huge, huge change. And now she doesn't know if she can sell that house, because if it's got 80,000 in specials and the house across the street, or down the road rather, is at 50,000, why would you buy a house when you're going to be paying much more when you're just down the street? And so there's a lot of discussion going on about this, but ultimately what we do, like what we've done, Andy, with our mutual client, like we do the work. We pull the tax statement, we work with the county, we work with title, and we get that fine-tuned. I don't doubt that this girl's lender did that. I'm guessing that they did, but it sounds like this was quite a surprise for her to go from 56 to 80,000.
Well, I would say it would be a surprise for anybody. I mean, I would be unpleasantly surprised. Yeah. And, this article talks about the fact that they have gone and, have hired counsel, even them and some of the neighbors. Kayla, I even know a builder who's building out there, and they got hit with additional assessments, which really, caused some of their products, their homes, to not be very marketable, and having to, basically dish out concessions to get things sold. Which really affects their profitability. And I mean, again, I haven't researched this very much other than just, reading the news, but, it seems to me like it's unfortunate growing pain for, Horace, that, was a very small town community, and all of a sudden has been kind of absorbed into Fargo-Moorhead, and people are building out there like mad. And so there are probably going to be some growing pains, but, again, I think it still comes down to, and again, like you say, I mean, everyone probably did what they were supposed to have done, but it's all the more reason why working with a good agent, a good lender, is very, very important. And even, as a buyer, double checking with the city, the county, just to make sure that everything is what it seems, because, well, as we see here, things happen, and, I don't know, when it's government, sometimes there doesn't seem to be a lot of ownership.
Well, and also when you're building a new home, I can't stress enough that, let's say you built and you're moving in 2025. So you're moving in April of 2025. If you get your tax bill, it's likely showing that your taxes are not fully assessed. They may not be assessed until the tax bill doesn't come out till December, Andy. So if you pay all year without, if your lender doesn't set you up to be paying based on what it's supposed to be, what it's fully assessed, you're going to be behind already. Well, then come the next year, they're going to not just make up for that loss from April to December, but now they need to get you on the right track. So now your payment goes up more. And then the tax abatement that comes in, that doesn't come until the first full year after you're in the home. So 2026, we're talking now. But guess what, Andy? That bill doesn't come out till the end. So this is a lot of information I'm sharing on a podcast. Think about when you're buying, like, you need to understand this, and you need a lender that's going to talk you through it, because it's a lot to understand. And you do not want to be in a position where you're behind in escrow and your payment goes up $300, $400, $500 a month because you just wanted the lower payment for a bit, or it wasn't explained. So I can't stress enough to, make sure that you are doing your homework. I don't doubt that this girl did. It sounds like it was quite a surprise. Legal counsel is now present, but I've seen it where clients have had to more than make up for the cost, and they had all the information. So that's regardless of a special increase or not. Just make sure that you're talking to your lender.
Mm-hmm. Or I have an easy fix to have, because I'm sure people are sitting there like, even I sit, and when I think about specials and I think about Fargo, I think, man, this is just, it's so complicated. So an easy fix, come and see me in Fergus Falls. Let's find you a house down here where there's no such thing as a special assessment.
Perfect.
That's not totally true, but it's pretty rare around here to find a home that doesn't have specials. And part of that is a consequence of not having much new development. We run into some snags with specials in that there's no online way to go and look at specials within the city of Fergus Falls. You have to reach out to somebody at the city office. So there are people that erroneously, and agents especially, that will erroneously go and look at the county tax statement and see, oh, no specials. And all of a sudden there's a house that, their buyer or their seller is, footing the bill for a bunch of specials that they probably knew about, but, the individual just hasn't done their due diligence, or maybe they don't know. So, but again, no matter where you're at, certainly do your research. And again, maybe even if you do your research, you may fall into an unfortunate circumstance.
Right, exactly. You can work as hard as you can and do your research. And I'm very curious what's going to happen with this. I'm going to keep my pulse on it, and hopefully, maybe we have an update in the future to see, will the city of Horace, take ownership? Well, what's going to happen? Like, I'm very curious. It's tough to tell.
I don't know what they're going to do, but I did see that they voted to kind of keep the old grain elevator down on the main drag, and some pieces as part of the downtown, just for historic.
Love it. I didn't even see that. Thanks for sharing.
Anyway, well, Kayla, I think we've talked a lot about a lot of different things. So that wraps up episode 74. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy Easter.
Happy Easter. We'll see you soon, Andy.
See you, Kayla.
Bye.